I was thinking about a comment on one of my posts where someone was saying how choosing themselves over their family caused them to be the villain in everyone's story. And I'm here to tell you, when it comes to family, that's got to happen. When you are in a situation where you are being forced to choose between your happiness and other people, you are already in a toxic situation. No one or no situation should ever force you to have to make a decision between choosing your happiness and something else. And unfortunately, family is the biggest barrier, but I believe God designs this for a reason. I believe this because family has the greatest ability to strategically cause blockages in your life when they're toxic. And it's very easy for them to do this because they know you better than anyone else. They know your mistakes, they know your flaws, they know your weaknesses, and they will use all of that information to keep you stuck in an unhealthy pattern of living. They could do this for several reasons: envy, jealousy, but most times it's to maintain control over you because it benefits them for you to remain in toxic patterns of behavior. And secondly, what I've learned in my years of isolation and healing is some of us were not born into families to create bonds, but to learn lessons. And once you've learned those lessons, unfortunately, there will come a point where you have to separate. Satan knows how much your family means to you, and he will use them to stop you from progressing on the plans that God has for you. If you go through the stories in the Bible, Jacob was tested with Isaac. Eli the priest was tested with his toxic sons. God needs to know that you are wholly and fully dedicated to the path that he has for you. And unfortunately, for some of us, that requires choosing us over our family. In my circumstances, it even meant my children. I have sacrificed everything for my children. They meant the world to me. I was on the first plane, bus, train whenever they needed anything. I was doing high school schoolwork during my doctorate program just to make sure that they finished high school. Stayed up with a bad arm and a bad neck, braiding hair all night, driving Uber and Lyft and DoorDash just to make sure that they had everything they needed. But in my isolation and healing, I have learned that my family has worked very hard since my children were infants to influence the narrative and create barriers between my relationship with them out of envy, jealousy, and control. No matter what I did, they were in my children's ear about me being a bad parent. And unfortunately, into their adulthood, when things got complicated between me and my family, they chose to adopt that narrative regardless as to the many sacrifices that I made. When I began to speak out about the years of toxic behavior that has existed in my family, it not only made my family uncomfortable, but it made my children uncomfortable. And my family used my children as a mechanism to attempt to silence me. My children joined in the toxic behaviors because of the years of manipulation by my family, and so I was forced to make a choice. I had to choose between speaking my truth, following God's plan for my life, and my toxic family and children. My children are grown and understand the difference between right and wrong, so I respect their free will. So you have to be the villain because that's the only way they can justify their toxic, unwarranted behavior. They will lie on you, talk about you, spread your business. They will use stories from your past to keep you trapped because they need to maintain control and to keep you in an environment that you don't belong. No one has the right to ask you to sacrifice what makes you happy, what keeps you on the path and connected to God, because anyone with those types of expectations do not belong in your life. Not a family, not a child, not a spouse, and not a friend. And that's food for thought. Stay prayed up and stay connected to God, because he will always direct you in the right way. I love you. Have a beautiful day in and on purpose.